So I posted on the channel a few days ago about the mass shooting over at Polk in California. To be honest with you, every time that I've gone past there, it seems pretty quiet. I've never really seen like large groups of people outside over there, and I've gone past there at night, multiple times. So what this was apparently though was a vigil, and this was for a person who has not been identified, at least not that I've seen, so I don't know who exactly the vigil was for. But at least 10 of the 14 people shot were members of the same family. And this entire thing was just shot up, and then one person was hit by a car, and there were multiple child victims, including one 3-year-old. And thankfully, everybody so far is still hanging on. Okay, so but we have several people in serious and critical condition, and hopefully, obviously, they'll pull through. Prayers up for them, man. But the West Side is, like I've told you guys a million times, don't listen to what anybody else says. I'm telling you, statistically, the Chicago police have put out statistical proof that the West Side is the most violent side. So people go out there like it's sweet. They're hanging out on the block like it's sweet. And, downtown is like just a few blocks away from the West Side. I mean, Polk in California, you're talking, you about a mile east and you're into like a high-end area. You're right by the United Center. You go only like 8 blocks east of that. California's 2,800. The United Center is like at Damon. And that's where the medical district is at. And by the medical district, which is a spot that I've been at in a ton of videos. You guys see me over by Cook County Hospital, over by Rush, UIC. You got students walking around there, doctors walking around there, like people with money. And a lot of the UIC students and stuff, and a lot of the businesses and the restaurants that cater to them. And that area, you might as well be like in the middle of like downtown over in that area. But as we've seen in downtown, it goes down too. Like in Chicago nowadays, it's like cracking everywhere. But the vigils are one thing though that I really think need to be indoors, or they need to be somewhere else. Every time I go past one of these block lightings or one of these, vigils that these guys are having, or just a large number of people hanging out on the block, having a barbecue, whatever it might be, I'm thinking to myself, like, this is a huge target. A lot of times these things are announced days beforehand on social media. And then when they do occur, you got people on their phones going live on Instagram or whatever, on Facebook, showing what's going on. People that got problems with them might be following them on their accounts, possibly under fake profiles. And then, they see what's going on and they head on over there. But this, I don't know if this was that, but anybody just going by the place, funerals. Any place where there's a large number of people at one time, I feel like these things need to be out in the suburbs, and they need to be held indoors, have the place out, by the Forest Preserve or out at some restaurant out in the suburbs, man. To have it right there on the block, in an area like that, is just begging for something to happen. How many times does it have to happen? Like, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. These things get shot up repeatedly. We saw several mass shootings, summers ago, at these block parties, these vigils. So there's a manhunt though now, and community members on Chicago's West Side gathered for a prayer vigil on Wednesday evening after the drive-by shooting on Halloween night that left 14 injured, including 10 members of the same family and 3 children. And another person was injured after being hit by a car on the scene. So the shooting occurred on Monday night around 9:30 p.m. in East Garfield Park, according to police, as people gathered to mourn a loved one who died from health complications. So the person who died that they were having the vigil for apparently was not killed. But the 3-year-old, the 11-year-old, and the 13-year-old boy were among those shot, and another person was injured after being hit by a car. One of the activists said the whole community is traumatized. This is some sick stuff that just happened around here. It's not normal, and that's according to Terry Young, who's the vice president of Black Men United, which is a community service organization, and shout out to them. So again, they're spraying up kids, they're spraying up just anybody that's out there. And I remember in the 90s when, there was a kid hit by Cabrini Green, it caused like a citywide truce amongst the black gangs, and the violence like dropped dramatically after that. Today, they're hitting kids every time they pull up. It's like the rules have just been tossed completely out the window. And this is not the same kind of thing in the streets that it was in the 90s at all. I mean, now shooting kids is like it's like a regular thing. And Lightfoot said, we must have an assault weapons ban. We must ban high-capacity magazines. And she said that while addressing the crowd at the Vigil, and she said they're literally tearing apart our kids, our families, and our city. And, you know, whether they do that or not, these guys are still getting the stuff illegally. So something that in and of itself is not going to be enough. You know, that's like banning alcohol during Prohibition, banning cocaine in the war on drugs. The stuff still happens. So they need to think of, okay, doing that is fine. Like, I'm not, you know, with the Republicans on, like, unlimited access to guns. And I think, you know, gun laws have their place, but that's not a solution, because we've seen in test case after test case that banning things does not stop them from flooding into the streets. The underground market for these things then flourishes. And Lightfoot and Brown urged anyone with information on the suspects to come forward, issuing a stark warning to the shooters. He said, it's time for you to step up and turn yourselves in. You are now the hunted. We have officers that are doing everything that they can around the clock to identify who you are and bring you to justice. So police are reviewing video of the incident and have some, quote, strong leads, and are offering up to a $15,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest of those involved. And he said people can submit tips to the police anonymously. So asked if police are searching for multiple suspects, a spokesperson told ABC News on Thursday that the investigation is ongoing. So they say you can run, but you can't hide from the Chicago Police Department holding you accountable for this tragedy. And he said, you are a strong community. Hold your head high because we need you to stay strong. So Brown told reporters on Tuesday that the investigation is still in its preliminary stages and police are not aware of a motive. He said, we know it's a drive-by. We know that it happened in just a few seconds. It begins and then it's over in 3 seconds. He says, we don't have any motives. Brown said, we don't have any offenders identified. So Brown said that some suffered non-life-threatening injuries while others were in critical condition, and at least one person is still hospitalized in critical condition. So shootings spiked in the city during COVID, according to CPD crime statistics, but the most recent data shows that through October 30th, there have been 2,433 shooting incidents in 2022, which is a 19% decrease over 2021 and a 12% decrease compared with 2020. So Brown told ABC News in an interview that aired last month that Chicago police have also been taking an average of 12,000 guns off Chicago streets every year. So he said, in the most complex policing landscape ever in this country's history, we're making progress, but the complexities make it such that it is so fragile. And he said the ebbs and flows of violence are persistent. So shout out to ABC News for that story. Yeah, but, you know, stopping the guns is not going to be enough, man, because these, you know, the criminals, they find a way. And where there's a demand, you know, the supply, the people with the supply always come in to meet that demand. But this location is not too far from Manly High School. It's like that around there. That particular block is Cali Mob Traveling Vice Lords, and I don't know if this was gang related or not, but you know, you've got large numbers of people on the block, and you know, anybody who's coming up to hit anybody that's in that crowd, okay, they got to assume that the people in the crowd got guns, okay, so they're not going to pull right up to the crowd and, you know, start up a shootout. They're going to shoot from a distance, and shooting from a distance, you're going to hit innocents. You know, and this has happened so many times, it's too many to even count. You know, just spraying up these crowds with kids in them, this is as foul as you can get. So, yeah, man, the streets don't have love for nobody, and they eventually turn on the same guys that do this kind of thing. But, yeah, hopefully everybody will make it, and nobody that's in critical condition right now will die. But, yeah, that's what's going on over there in that neighborhood, man. And like I've said in numerous videos, these spots out west with these TVL blocks, these Four Corner Hustler blocks, these are the most dangerous blocks in the city of Chicago. So the vigils, the block lightings, that all needs to be somewhere else, because you're just tempting people. You know, it's almost like you're daring people when you have a large number of people out there on those blocks. You know, it's almost like you're daring anybody that's got beef with anybody in that crowd to come through. And I don't, like I said, I don't know who was in the crowd, so I'd have to know who was in the crowd to, you know, be able to speculate on that. But that's what it is right now. This is your boy Winnie City Report. I'm out.